tightness in the body or any tension. Maybe just seeing if you can soften up around it. Maybe dropping the shoulders, releasing the jaw. You might have to shift your pose a little bit to find a comfortable pose to sit or lie or stand in. And then inviting yourself to soften around any tightness in the body. It's okay to let go. Right at this moment, there's nothing to do. There's absolutely nowhere to go but just being here. So allowing the body to just really gently and very safely just sink into the surface that's holding you, fully supported by the earth, fully supported here. And perhaps feeling those areas of contact of the body with the surface holding you. Noticing whether there's warmth in these areas or coolness. Maybe you can notice the softness of the cushion, the back of the chair, the contact of your feet with the ground, the earth underneath. Remembering that the body extends way, way farther than we think. And by no means we're limited to this form. We're quite limitless in this way. So just for a moment, let's just hang in here with this body, settling in this pose, settling in this moment. Acting on our behalf on command. Allowing the breath to flow normally and naturally. Whatever that means for you. Maybe that's fast, maybe that's slow, maybe that's deep, maybe shallow. But bringing a sense of being at ease with whatever is happening right now, whatever is here. It is all good and it is all welcome. As Rumi says, pulling out the welcome mat. And you might notice the mind taking you in a story, getting carried away by thoughts. Whenever you notice that, just bring a big smile to your face. That is a mindful moment. So there's a certain kindness and tenderness that we bring to the moment in this way. So every time you notice yourself getting carried away by the thoughts, by the story, this is just normal for the mind to do. And then all we do is just court the attention right back, bringing your attention kindly to your anchor, which could be the body, sensations in the hands or the feet, be the breath, or it could be sounds if you're in a place that maybe is loud, or silence itself. So you don't need anything to be a certain way for you to sit here peacefully with yourself. Gently settling right into the moment. Settling the mind, settling the body. Welcoming things exactly as they are. They're already here, so might as well. Knowing that trying to be in a different state than what you already are would only allow for more tension to build up. So it's rather we're just sitting here noticing what's here. And then coming back again and again to the anchor of attention, the breath, the body, the sounds, whatever you find more available right now. Now taking in a deep breath with me, filling up the belly again. And on a long exhale, noticing if there is any tension once again, checking in with the body. Noticing what kind of stories happened during the pause. Where did the mind go? And very kindly coming back to the anchor of your attention. And as you do that, just noticing what motivated you to be here today. What's the drive that brings you here? Perhaps there are some goals that you have set towards yourself in your practice, carrying them on with intention. And then there's this sense of purpose, this motivation that keeps you going. What does this motivation feel like? Knowing that just the fact that you're here gives you a sense of purpose. For your practice is not just for you. The practice shows every time we interact with one another. But there's always this one thing that has to drive you to show up for yourself in this way. And there is no right or wrong answer. Perhaps even just a sense of curiosity. One of the most important things in mindfulness. And what does this motivation feel like? Is there a sense of ease? Is there a sense of joy, connectivity? Instead of the mind looking for answers, you're tuning into the body and seeing a sense feeling here. As you tune into the moment, there's something that motivates you, that moves you, that drives you. What does that feel like? Getting away from all conceptual ideas. But turning towards yourself. In your world, what does that mean? can we bring purpose to every moment? Can there be a driving force, a motivation, moment by moment? Without looking for anything big, fame, recognition, but just a simple moment. What does that drive? What does it feel like? Is it aligned with my goals? Am I living the intention to be there moment by moment? Noticing the journey. So last week we talked a little bit about goals, intentions. Today we're talking about purpose. Tuning into motivation, the motivation that drives you to your goals. This motivation allows for goals to be accomplished. But what does this have to do with mindfulness? Well, our mindfulness practice allows us to become aware when this motivation is not serving us. We can dig in deeper than the surface of our wants, our desires, and really tune into the desire to achieve the goal. So when we talk about purpose, the mind often looks for the big things. It's just like when we're trying to find the pleasant moments in life. We open our eyes and nothing pleasant today. And we forget the things, the small little things. So purpose can be the small things also, everyday things. So the idea with our mindfulness practice is that we become aware when we're walking on the path of our purpose, of achieving our goals. Without mindfulness, we might just go aimlessly in life, drifting away from our essence. But the practice allows for this awareness to kind of keep us rooted, keep us here. So today, as we celebrate Martin Luther King here in the US, we're reminded of living a life with purpose and service for the well-being of others. So every year when we remember Dr. King, he reminds us of a life of service. And he says an individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. So Dr. King invites us to take a look at our life, to re-examine how we're serving one another. And as we practice our mindfulness, we can be more aware of how we relate to others. In this way, we're building a more just world, a kinder, more loving world. And it all starts with every single one of us. So I think being human is a big responsibility. We are in many ways responsible for one another. And the idea is not to be a helper. It's not to go and fix everybody's life. The idea is to just simply be here, be fully present. So here in the tribe, when we do our informal practice, we often go into small groups and we have the opportunity to practice these things. We have the opportunity to practice beginner's mind and noticing when we have assumptions towards one another. How do we see each other? How do we see people that don't look like us, that don't speak like us? It's the beauty of this community that we have is that there's that level of acceptance for one another because we're all from different places, right? And we got to thank Zoom for that, bringing this acceptance that we're all from different places and we all belong in a lot of ways. So Dr. King says in his famous speech, I Have a Dream, he says, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, he says. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. So coming back to our humanity, our connection, right? And it's not really unusual that he would say these things. He was very close to Thich Nhat Hanh. They were really good friends. So a lot of his work was influenced by Thich Nhat Hanh and mindfulness, right? So here we are in this path, kind of sharing this day as a really important time in our lives. And I don't think this just applies to US. I mean, I certainly seen the injustice and you know the mind just creating bias in our regular lives, and definitely in Peru where I'm from and in other countries as I traveled. So I think with ourselves practicing our mindfulness, there's really a lot of room for really taking in these practices and taking them out into the world by just being the vehicle of kindness and compassion and practicing these foundations of acceptance and beginner's mind. So there is a poet called Ryokan, and he pretty much lived as a hermit his entire life. He was a very, very good writer and well known. His publications were really well known, but he still decided to live as a hermit. And he didn't look for fame or notability, despite of being so popular. So he lived day by day, and not as a unique figure, but as someone authentic to his vow. So if, in case you don't know who he was a Zen monk. So I guess his vow was to live in the simplicity, right? His purpose, his motivation was to share the work that he had learned. And so someone hidden away as a hermit priest, that's how he lived. But there's not much to tell, it says, about his life. No drama to speak of, as he climbed up and down the slope of his mountain refuge, bearing the cold winter, enduring the mosquitoes in the summer. Just having a regular life. But he was able to do so much and contribute to so much. And so as we talk about goals and we talk about intention this year, and now we bring the sense of purpose into the year, there is this also downfall to goals and purpose if we don't have mindfulness. And that goes to the self-identification with our goals. So this is something that mindfulness can help us navigate as well, to become aware on where we're so self-identified with what we do, right? With these goals that we want to achieve. So in my work with veterans and retirees, I've learned that there's a big self-identification with what we do, that when we retire, a lot of the times, people that retire go into these depressions because they have identified all their lives with what they do. I'm a professor, I'm a scientist, I am this, I am that. And so with mindfulness, we kind of get away from that self-identification in some ways. And you've probably heard that there's no I, there's no me, there's no mine. Because this is what causes so much suffering, right? The self-identification. So when we bring compassion to the side of us, the self-identification that gets on the way of us living a peaceful, happy life, right? One of the teachers for mindfulness, he tells a story about a friend that comes to him saying, my watch broke. And he's just crying because his watch that so-and-so gave him and blah, 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 blah. And you probably heard of this teacher. His name is Goenka. He's from India. He passed away a few years ago, but he opened a lot of Vipassana centers. And he tells a story. And he says, I listened to him and I was like, oh, poor thing. Okay. But he was so hurt because the watch broke. And then he says, later, my watch broke. And then there I was crying because my watch had broken. This thing I inherited from, my great-grandfather and past generation after generations, mine, and it broke. And so he gives a little bit of a perspective on how we identify with what's ours, who we are, right? Me, mine, I, and how much we suffer because of that, because these are all changing things. These are all things that are going to pass. So when we talk a little bit about compassion, we talk about the sense of compassion towards these parts of us that are normal, our humanity identifying. I personally have to share that I do sometimes get carried away with the self-identification of teaching MBSR, and it's like, well, I shouldn't get mad. I teach MBSR, or, I shouldn't react because I teach MBSR. So this self-identification causes much suffering. And just knowing that deep inside, we're a lot more than that. Our essence is a lot bigger than that. And so today I'd like to invite you to just notice what's your sense of purpose. By that, I mean, what motivates you? What drives you? And is that something that is helpful to you, or is it something that could actually be helpful to everyone around you? Already, just by practicing, this is something you're doing for just about everybody. But regularly in your life, wondering how that is. And so maybe we'll just take a moment kind of reflecting on that, reflecting on this idea of what drives me and what is the motivation behind it. What motivates me? What's my sense of purpose? Noticing when you're looking for these big things, recognition and fame, the things that bring all this. Noticing when you're looking for your own way of maybe helping yourself when you do things. Is it for you, ultimately? So maybe just taking one deep breath. I thank you for being here, and I thank you for listening.